A black boy was unjustly kicked off the flight by a flight attendant, but after only 10 minutes he turned the situation around and received unexpected revenge. It's a hot afternoon at Orlando International Airport in Florida, which is as busy as ever with passengers rummaging through luggage and announcements echoing through loudspeakers. Before starting the story, tell me where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with everyone. A 15-year-old black teen named Marcus was on his first solo flight to visit his grandfather in New York, a trip his family had been encouraging for months. As Marcus settled into his seat by the window, he noticed a flight attendant nearby, her gaze lingering on him with an unusual intensity. Despite his excitement for the journey, an uneasy feeling crept in as the attendant's demeanor toward him stood out stern and distant compared to her warm interactions with other passengers. Marcus had no idea this flight would soon take an unexpected turn. Marcus had settled into seat 20A, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves for his solo flight. As passengers continued to board, he adjusted his seatbelt and glanced out the window, anticipating the journey ahead. Suddenly, a flight attendant, a blonde woman in her early 30s with a stern expression, approached him. Her tone was sharp as she asked, "Are you in the right seat?" Marcus, caught off guard, nodded and showed her his boarding pass, confirming his assigned seat. She took the pass, inspecting it carefully as if searching for a mistake. After a tense moment, she returned it with a skeptical mutter, and walked away. Marcus felt a wave of unease. He had seen her greet other passengers with smiles and casual conversation, but her demeanor toward him was cold and distant. A few minutes later, the flight attendant reappeared, this time with 2 security officers in tow. "There's an issue with your seat," she said, her formal tone masking an underlying edge. Marcus, confused and increasingly uncomfortable, insisted that he had a valid ticket. Her response was curt, demanding he follow the officers. Feeling the eyes of other passengers on him, Marcus reluctantly unbuckled his seatbelt and stood, humiliated and unsure of what would happen next. Under the guise of a supposed seat issue, Marcus was escorted off the plane, his heart pounding with confusion and humiliation. The flight attendant, standing with arms crossed and a cold expression, offered no real explanation as passengers stared, whispering among themselves. Marcus clutched his backpack tightly, his hands trembling as he tried to process what was happening. "This doesn't make any sense," he muttered, his voice breaking slightly as he was led toward the gate. Once outside the plane, the flight attendant's tone turned sharper, her words laced with disdain. "We don't tolerate disturbances on this flight," she said, her gaze piercing. Marcus, stunned, replied, "Disturbance? I didn't do anything. I have my ticket, it's my seat." But her expression remained unmoved, and she added pointedly, "Your type of attitude doesn't belong here." Those words hit Marcus like a blow. He had heard subtle comments like this before, but hearing it in such a direct and dismissive way from someone in authority left him speechless. The security officers stood by silently, their presence adding to the weight of the moment, as if validating her baseless accusation. Marcus's frustration boiled over into anger. "I didn't cause any trouble," he said firmly, trying to hold back the humiliation threatening to overwhelm him. The flight attendant's gaze didn't waver, but her words had already struck their mark. Feeling powerless, Marcus stood there as she continued to assert her authority, her accusations hanging in the air. This wasn't just about being removed from the flight. It was about the judgment and prejudice she had so openly displayed, reducing him to a stereotype rather than seeing him as a person. Feeling utterly powerless and shaken, Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed the only person he could think of, his grandfather. His fingers trembled as he hit the call button, the humiliating words of the flight attendant echoing in his mind. After a couple of rings, a deep, familiar voice answered. "Marcus, what's going on? Are you on your way?" Struggling to steady his voice, Marcus replied, "Grandpa, they kicked me off the plane. They said there's a problem with my seat, but it doesn't make sense. The flight attendant, she just singled me out. She's saying things, disrespectful things. His voice cracked slightly, the weight of the moment overwhelming him. There was a brief silence on the other end, but Marcus could sense the tension. His grandfather, Thomas Hamilton, a man of calm but resolute authority, took a deep breath. "Where are you right now?" he asked, his tone measured but firm. "At the gate," Marcus replied, glancing around at the flight attendant and the security officers still lingering nearby, their impatience visible. "Stay there, don't go anywhere," his grandfather said with conviction. "I'll handle this." Though unsure of what his grandfather planned to do, Marcus felt a flicker of hope. He trusted his grandfather's word and waited, standing awkwardly but resolute, as the humiliating scene continued to unfold. In just 10 minutes, a group of airport executives arrived at the gate, accompanied by a senior director who immediately recognized Marcus. His concerned expression shifted to controlled urgency as he approached. Turning to the flight attendant, the director asked sharply, "What's going on here?" The flight attendant, visibly caught off guard, tried to explain, but her confidence faltered as the director revealed the truth. Marcus was the grandson of Thomas Hamilton, the airline's owner. The weight of this revelation left the flight attendant stunned and speechless. The flight attendant's demeanor shifted instantly as the senior director revealed Marcus's identity. Her once confident posture crumbled, leaving her pale and visibly shaken. She stammered, attempting to defend her actions. "I thought there was a disturbance," she managed, but her voice lacked conviction. The director's tone hardened. "A disturbance or an assumption?" he pressed, his words slicing through her feeble excuse. Passengers nearby watched the exchange unfold, murmuring among themselves. Marcus stood quietly, his emotions a mix of anger and vindication as the truth came to light. The director's authority was clear as he issued swift orders. Marcus was to be reinstated immediately, and the flight attendant would be removed from her position on the plane. Her face flushed with humiliation as she was escorted away, her head bowed under the weight of her public disgrace. The other crew members, now fully aware of the situation, rushed to make amends. Marcus was escorted back onto the plane with a warmth that sharply contrasted the earlier hostility. As he settled into his seat, the atmosphere had shifted entirely. The once aloof flight crew now treated him with respect, their smiles sincere. Justice had been served, not just in words, but in action, leaving a powerful message behind. Marcus returned to his seat, this time greeted warmly by a different flight crew, whose demeanor showed genuine remorse for what had occurred. The atmosphere on the plane had shifted entirely. Passengers who had witnessed the earlier humiliation now whispered among themselves, many casting apologetic glances his way. Marcus, however, kept his focus forward, determined not to dwell on their reactions. A few moments later, the airline captain approached him personally. His expression was solemn as he extended his hand. "Mr. Hamilton, on behalf of the airline, I want to sincerely apologize for the incident you experienced today," the captain said, his voice filled with regret. "This behavior does not reflect the values we stand for as a company." Marcus nodded politely, appreciating the gesture but still processing the emotions of the ordeal. The captain's words were meaningful, but the event had left a lasting impression. As Marcus settled back into his seat, he stared out the window, reflecting on the significance of what had just happened. This wasn't just about his reinstatement or the apologies he received. It was about the larger issue of prejudice that many like him face daily. Marcus resolved that moving forward, he would use his voice and resources to challenge such injustices wherever possible. Though grateful for the resolution, Marcus couldn't ignore a deeper truth. Many others facing similar prejudice lacked the privilege and influence he had. The incident was a stark reminder of the systemic injustices that often go unchecked. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Marcus felt a newfound determination. This experience wasn't just about his vindication, it was a call to action. He resolved to use his family's resources and platform to advocate for those who couldn't fight back, ensuring their voices were heard and their rights protected. The story ends with a heartfelt reflection on the importance of fighting discrimination and prejudice. Stories like Marcus's highlight the challenges many people face every day, urging each of us to recognize and address these injustices in our own lives. Together, we can create a world where everyone is treated with respect and dignity. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. We encourage dialogue about similar experiences or perspectives. If this story inspires you, remember to like it. It doesn't cost anything, and you will make me very happy. Thank you, and I look forward to receiving your likes.